Raven of the Retro Dev here, and in this video we are going to install Windows 3.11 inside of 86box. Now, what we need to do first is we need to create our actual machine. Now, if you're following along from the previous video or you've used the previous video, you, for the most part, can use the same machine. I'm going to use the same machine, and the links to everything that you need are found in here. And I'll just give you a really quick rundown on what you need to do and what you need to install. So first thing, you need to download 86box for your machine, extract it, dump it wherever you wish to install it. You need to create a ROMs folder, and in the link below there is a GitHub archive with all the ROMs. You just extract those into a folder called ROMs. The next thing you need to do is, I just created a folder called disks just to store everything. I actually don't need these anymore, or this. And then I also created a folder for my hard drives, and I'm gonna go ahead and just delete the Windows 3.11 hard drive there. I went on ahead and installed it just to make sure everything installed properly. And the next thing, of course, is if you have any sound fonts and you want to use like Fluid Synth to, fake a virtual, like a Roland or whatever, you can do that as well. Relatively straightforward. Dump the files in. It'll make this NVR drive. And that's pretty much all you really need to know. Then when you launch it and you open it up, you'll have all these different machine types. We're using, for this video, an i46 socket 3. And we're using the Sys496 Asus. And we're also going to be using the AMD AM5X86 P90 and 64 megabytes of memory with the dynamic recompiler. For Windows 3.11, this is quite a stout machine. The next thing is for video, we're just going to be using the VLB S3 Trio 64. It's a relatively stable card. It tends to work pretty good. You got 4 megabytes of video memory. It's pretty useful. For the mouse, we're just going to pick a standard PS2 mouse, and I configured it to be a 3-button mouse. For sound, we are going to be using the SoundBlaster AW32, and for the MIDI out, we're just going to be using a Fluid Synth rather than Roland or any of the other types of emulation. Now, one thing I do want to point out, you do need to know the interrupts of everything. I left everything mostly the default. I changed the IRQ to 7, and the DMA to 1, and the high DMA to 5. And I went on ahead and changed the onboard RAM to 28 megabytes because why not? It doesn't really affect anything. And that's all for there. Now, we're going to be using Windows 3.11 for workgroups, which means networking. So we're going to use the network type of Slurp, and we're going to use the Novell NE2000. And the only thing we really need to change is the address needs to be... for the IRQ, sorry, you can just leave the address at the default. But the IRQ, we're going to set that to 3 because that's actually where Windows 3.11 looks for first. Though you can change it to anything you like. We're going to be using 3 because we can, and that's where we have it set to. Ports and comm, we're moving on. All this stuff, internal, leave it. Now, for the next part here, we're going to go ahead and hit remove here. And we are going to type new. And we are going to select a 518 megabyte hard drive. That seemed to work relatively well. And I'm going to call it Win311. And I'm going to make it a fixed size VHD. Save it. And then hit OK. And then it'll run through the process here. And we'll hit OK again. For the floppy, a 3.5 inch 1.44 megabyte with the turbo timing on. And for a CD drive, we just want it to be a TAPI. And we want it to be 01, so we want it to be the primary slave. And also, we want to go back to our hard drive and set it to 00, which makes it the primary master drive for that IDE. And that's pretty much it. That's a very quick rundown. You can watch the FreeDOS video if you want like a more in-depth explanation, but I didn't want this to be a 20-minute video on just this part. And we're good. This is pretty much all we need. And like I said, this is pretty overkill for a machine of this caliber. Now, we're going to go ahead and save again, and it's going to reboot, and that's totally fine. Let it reboot. Now, accidentally clicked in there, you can hit Control End to uncapture the mouse. It'll say it up here. What we need to do is we need to create a new image, and we want it to be 1.4 megabytes. And I'm actually going to go into disks, drivers. Okay. And then we'll just do spd.image. This is for the SoundBlaster drivers, by the way. And then we're just going to hit save. And then it'll ask, it's already replaced. Do you want to replace it? Yes. And then we'll just hit OK. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the disks. And I already have the SoundBlaster executable in here, but we need to actually get it into the virtual machine. Keep in mind, this is not like DOSBox or anything where you can just copy files back and forth. It is a real, quote unquote, machine. So we need to mount this drive. I'm going to use GNOME's disk image mounter. We're just going to select it. And it's going to be a pain because naturally, of course, it's going to be a pain. I'm going to go back into the documents folder there, x86 box, disks, drivers. And I am just going to really quickly open up disks here. And I'm going to attach the disk image. And I'm going to go into drivers. And I'm going to uncheck read-only loop device there. On Windows, you probably won't have this problem. But I keep having this problem on Linux. And then I'm just going to grab this. And I'm just going to drag it straight into here. And it copied. And now I can unmount it. And now we're good to go. Everything is set. We're 100% ready to go. Now what we need to do is select an existing image. And I'm going to go into my DOS folder here. And I'm going to select DOS1. And then I am just going to reboot the machine, do a hard reset. And I'm going to go into... You guys don't really need to do this part. This is just for me so that it displays the hard drive properly. It should auto-detect, but if it doesn't, you can go into here and you can just change it. And I don't actually want it to do any of that. Just skip all of this. I do not have anything. It's under IDE, hard drive auto-detection. It was set to the 2 gig one for the FreeDOS. Don't want it to do that because that's kind of wrong. Okay, so now we'll just reboot. It doesn't actually really affect anything, but Windows, for some reason, reports as having 2 gigabytes free on a 544 megabyte drive. No, thank you. Then we're just going to wait for DOS here. And we're just going to hit enter for continue. Figure unallocated disks. We're going to hit enter. It's rebooting again. And we're just going to wait here. And we're just going to keep waiting. And keep waiting, and keep waiting. Now, we need to install DOS in order to install Windows. So this part, DOS installs fairly quickly, to be fair. Unlike FreeDOS, it does install. We're just going to leave these the defaults because they're fine. We'll install everything in the default directory. We're not going to bother with doing anything in any particular special manner or order. Okay, so I should have probably mentioned at the beginning of this video, but this does require you to have MS-DOS and Windows 3.11. I'm not going to link directly, but there are numerous places because it's kind of considered abandonware now. But I have my own copies, so this is what I'm using. But if you happen to need it, there are places where you can get it. I don't really condone piracy, but it's a 30-year-old operating system. I don't really know if anyone really cares anymore. And we're just going to switch over to the next one here. And then we'll just hit enter. This is going to be pretty cool. I have to say, I never really used Windows 3.11 growing up. Really wasn't my thing. I had like a DOS machine and then kind of jumped straight to Windows 95. So 3.11 was never really my thing. So just gonna chill out and wait here for a second. Like I said, DOS itself installs relatively fast, at least on this machine with these settings. It depends. If you try to install DOS on an 8088 or an 8086, it can take quite a while. And I'm not actually sure 6.22 even installs on an 8086, to be honest. It might, though. I don't know. That'd be a fun experiment just to, just to see if it installs. Image 3. Boom. And we wait. We just casually wait some more. Do more waiting. Followed by more waiting. I do somewhat miss the days of when I used to like chill out and I used to have to install Windows XP like every 3 to 6 months because it would break, and I had like a 40 gig hard drive, and I used to chill out and spend the whole Saturday night into early Sunday morning just reinstalling and restoring backups and stuff like that. I really wish that it didn't have to do that, but I'd get about 6 months. I think once I made it about a year before XP really started slowing down. Don't miss those days. I much prefer the way operating systems work now. And I'm sure someone's going to comment and say that I never had that problem, and I just think that's fantastic that they never had that problem. Also, if you're tabbing away or anything like that, and you can't type or whatever, just hit Alt-Enter. Sorry, just hit Enter. I mean, not Alt. Sorry, I said that backwards. Just hit Alt. Because sometimes it prevents you from typing because, it is a VM. So, like, if I hit Alt... No, it's not going to do it because, magic. Of course, it's not going to do it. Okay, so there are a few things we need to do now. But first thing we're going to do is we are just going to mount the Windows 3.11 Workgroup version. I have the regular one as well, but we're just going to mount the original Windows 3.11. And then we are just going to type a colon and then hit enter, and we'll wait a second, and then we can do a dir, and it'll give us the directory, and you can see that there's a setup, so we'll just run setup. And now we'll wait a second, and the window's probably going to change, because if I recall, it does. So wait a second for it to do its thing there. Okay, so to set up Windows for Workgroups 3.11, press enter now. We'll press enter. We're just going to do just an express setup. The default stuff is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong at all with the default setup. Now, going forward with this part, I am going to pause it at certain points until it starts changing and asking for things and then swapping the disks. Windows 3.11 installs almost as fast as DOS does. It doesn't really take very long. So that's pretty good. So I'm going to pause, and I'll be back when the next time I am needed at a prompt. When it asks for the disk, just beat at the disk and hit enter. Okay, we're back. So we have a little prompt here. We're on disk 2, by the way. Didn't really take very long. And we're going to say the full name is The Retro Dev, and the company will also be The Retro Dev. And I'm just going to ignore the product number because I don't care. And off we go again. Now, it tried to configure the network driver, and I do not know if it did. But I will see you guys in like maybe a minute for the next one. And I should probably release my mouse. Okay, and we're back. Okay, so here we have a bunch of printers. I don't really have any of these printers, and I'm not really going to use them. So we're just going to select no printer attached, install. But if you add printer, you can set it up. Now, here's the network part. All right, we're going to do networks here. We're just going to leave this one alone. The default for this should be fine. But if you're going to use this with something, just set it up appropriately for your local network there. And we're just going to hit continue. Now, here is what I was referring to earlier. These are where your interrupts are. And we're going to set ours to 3 because that's what we have it set to. And then we're just going to hit OK. And then, no, we do not want to select a different setting. And then we just want to hit OK. Now we're back to copying. It's going to ask for 7 there really quick. Image. Enter. Now, if you get some weird error where it just kind of like locks up and, freezes at your, like when you tell it to boot into Windows, you might want to check your network interrupt and make sure that it's set. If it's not on 3, it will, Windows will lock up. Alternatively, you can also just, disable the networking and then it'll just go straight in. And then we're going to do 8. These last two go pretty quick. So after this is done, we're gonna reboot, and then we're gonna install the AW32 sound drivers, because you kind of need those for Windows. You don't really need them for DOS because DOS. But okay, so yes, we just want to use the MS-DOS editor because fine. We could do the tutorial. It teaches you how to like drag windows and like all that sort of stuff, which is perfectly acceptable. I'm just going to skip the tutorial though for the sake of this, and I'm going to restart my computer. And I'm going to hit Control N and there and eject that device, and then I'll just hit any key, and now it'll start straight into DOS. Wait a second for it to do its thing. Okay, so now if we do a dir, you'll see we have a Windows folder. Now I'm going to make a new directory with mkdir, and I'm going to call it installs. And then I'm going to mount that driver floppy that we made at the beginning of the video. And then I'm going to go into my floppy, and I'm going to do a dir there. And you'll see we have the file. So I'm just going to say sbbasic.exe, copy sbbasic, to C installs. And I'm going to say enter. And then we just wait a second, because, you know, it's copying at the real legitimate speed of a floppy, which is quite slow. Although, I guess, relatively speaking, it's not that bad. But, you know, it's a 1.2 megabyte file, and we're still waiting. So make of that what you will. Okay, cool. Perfect. And now we'll just go back in and we'll do cd installs. And we'll do another dir, and you can see our file there. And we'll just do sbbasic. And now it's extracting. This is another reason why I did not want this thing in the C directory. Plus, we can get rid of it after we're done. And then we'll just do install. And then we'll run through the setup really quick. I'm really amazed that SoundBlaster like still includes like creative assembly, creative interactive, or I can't remember their name. Well, it's fine, doesn't matter. But I think it's really, really cool that they still continue it. And you can see it's already set up properly, which is awesome. I'll just hit enter there. Checking the audio card. Now here's where we have to change our interrupt. Our interrupt is on 7, but everything else can be left alone. If we go back to our sound here and hit configure, you'll see that low DMA is 1, high DMA is 5. So we can just leave that. Only thing we have to change is the interrupt. And enter. As we left everything the default, which is really nice because a lot of applications tend to just, you know, find that, and then we'll just say enter really quick. And we're going to have to reboot after this. Then we'll just proceed. I don't want to do any backups or anything like that. It's fine. I mean, it's a fresh install. Let's start up. And we'll just hit F10 just to reboot. And then we will just disconnect and eject that floppy because we do not need it anymore. Lock my mouse to 86 box. And then what we're going to do is we're going to sign into Windows. We're just going to type win at the C prompt, and we'll get Microsoft Windows for Workgroups. Hey, we have sound. That's pretty cool. And we don't have a password, so we're just going to hit OK, and our login name is The Retro. Do you want to create one? Yeah, I'll create one. Why not? Okay. Audio group window is created. Pretty cool. So we have the creative mixer. We have the control panel where we can change like all kinds of like really cool stuff. We can do playback and this increase the this is really cool. Oh, we have honky tonk. Clearly have to click that. You know, it's a shame. Nothing really comes with this sort of stuff. But hey, what are you gonna do? I do like the fact that basically everything is Alt F4 to close the window. This will end your Windows session. Okay, no, we don't want to do that. Because, you know, this is like the weird stuff. So this is basically everything. I mean, you have a control panel, which includes some stuff. There's a mini mapper. And I don't actually want to do anything with that, so I'm just going to cancel. Change your network. Here are your sound settings. You have an incoming call. Just test everything. I love that everything just, it works. Like, wasn't that like just the greatest thing ever? Like, try that with like modern machines, and sure, sometimes stuff works, but a lot of times it doesn't. I mean, that was just perfect. Of course, you know, we are using an emulator, and we do have the advantage of a very powerful computer and operating system outside of it that is running all of this. But still, this is very cool, very effective. I think it's under accessories. I was looking for something here. Yeah, the media player. And then we just pick open. Can't remember where it is. We're looking for MIDI file somewhere. Okay, there's only one, Canyon. So MIDI works. Pretty good. I mean, I don't know if the MIDI itself is pretty good, but I mean, sound works, so I mean, I call that a win. And yeah, I think that'll about do it for this tutorial. This wasn't really about, you know, Windows. We have a clock. Let's see what the clock looks like. Okay, that's a really basic clock. Okay. Just gonna Alt F4. That's much faster than trying to navigate. My mouse is not really equipped for this low resolution. It's not dealing with this very well. I need to figure out a way to slow it down. It does actually come with some programs. You have Write and Terminal, which is I think for phone calls and stuff. Yeah. Well, actually, I think you can do like quite a bit with this probably, but I think it's mostly just for phone and stuff. I never used it, so maybe someone in the comments or something can let me know. And then this is a paintbrush program. I think it's almost more advanced than modern. Actually, I think it is more advanced than modern paint. Although it can't pick as many colors, but that's not the point, I suppose. Then you have your Write program. This is like your WordPad. Or what I guess would be the modern equivalent. Would be WordPad. Pretty neat. You actually have a couple bit of fonts. Even some fonts are UTF. Your types. Arial, Curl, Courier New, Symbol, Times New Roman, and Wingdings, because naturally, of course, you have to use the Wingdings font. Anyhow, thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you guys liked it. In the next one, I'm not really sure what we're gonna do, but absolutely 100% we'll do something. Maybe I'll do an actual tutorial on how to, like, you know, install applications and stuff like that. But that's how you install Windows 3.11 with working networking. This has working networking. Can't really test it because it's all IPX and stuff. So I'll have to find something to do another video on, so like we can actually like properly test it. But I mean, yeah, it's all working. We got some solitaire here. Can't believe we have solitaire. I mean, actually, I can't. Oh, goody. Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought my mouse was like clicking multiple times. I was like, oh goodness, great, another problem. Anyhow, see you guys in the next one. Everything you need, don't forget, is in the description. If you like this channel, like, share, and subscribe, especially if you like this video. If you need any help with this, you know, just hop on over on the forums and make an account. And if you already have one, just go to the topic in the description, and I'll try to provide any help for anything you might need. If you pick a different sound card, I mean, most people are going to pick SoundBlaster. The drivers are there, but might have to do some hunting and pecking if you can't find the, you know, if you try to use something like the Gravis or something. I'm not really sure how well that's supported, but Sound Blasters are always a good and well supported.